Sorry about that, guys. Our audio is off.
Run it back.
Run it back, though, yeah. But again, welcome to the Property Panel Podcast. You got myself, Jalen Hardcastle, here with Josh Story. And again, what you didn't hear is that we do want to give a thanks to our supporters that have been watching, sharing, liking, subscribing. Whatever it is, we want to thank you because it really helps get us out there. And we're not doing this to blow up by any means, but we do want to get this information out to as many buyers and sellers and people investing in real estate as possible.
And a big shout out to our title sponsors for making this podcast possible. Shout out to Collier Title. If you need deed prep, title work, closings, and much more, they're located in Brandenburg, E-Town, and Louisville. And you can call them at 270-763-6589 for their Brandenburg office. I want to give a big thanks to Supreme Lending as well. Chad Gooden, Garrett Greenwell. They do FHA loans, VA loans, conventional loans, and much more. And they're located in E-Town off of North Mulberry Street. And then for this week's sponsor, I want to thank CNS Pumping. And they do septic pumping, inspections, and grease traps. And you can reach them at 270-828-6000.
Yeah, and they do a lot of help for us day in and day out. Actually, just this week, we came back from vacation and our plumbing wasn't working. So I knew it had to be my septic or something blocked. So I called them guys in, and they actually couldn't even get into the top of my septic because it was frozen. So they had all the tools out there to get that unlocked and undone and to get me working again. So we appreciate them and thank them for being this episode sponsor. And if you or anyone you know is looking to be an episode sponsor, we do offer weekly, monthly, and yearly packages. So for the monthly, it's 100, or for the weekly, I'm sorry, is 100. 300 for the monthly and 3,000 for the yearly. And we blast you on our intros, our outros, and our intermissions, as well as our social medias. And this next week, we do promise that we are bringing you on Spotify and iTunes as well. So if you're just driving on the job site or whatever, you can just listen to the audio packet.
And if you guys feel like it, we'd really appreciate a like and follow or a subscribe. Put that bell notification on to get notified when we're going live. But I guess we're going to go ahead and get into today's topic. Mastering manufactured mobile home breakdown, and we're going to go over the build quality, the cost effectiveness, and how they're built.
Yeah, and most people ask what is a modular construction. Obviously they think of a mobile home, but really the reason they're called a modular and mobile home is because of the off-site planning. Basically they're taking all the work that would go into a construction of a home and doing it in a factory and then bringing it to the job site, where simultaneously they're also doing the septics, the lateral lines, the plumbing, the footers, and all that while the build's going on in the factory as well. But there's several different types of off-site constructions, and they're known as building systems. And actually the modular building system takes a home plan, divides it into modulars. They're typically 3 or 4, and construct those into a finish level of up to 85% before they even bring it out of the factory and get it to the home. So there's no other building system that has the ability to maximize the advantage that building in a factory can. And I think that's why you see a lot of delays and stuff on those custom built homes, and even those spec homes, is just whenever you're dealing with on-site work, it runs into overruns.
And there's a lot of benefits for these modular homes, which we'll go into. But what type of planning do you need if you want to get into a modular home?
So it really depends if you're wanting to buy new or if you're buying used. You have to look at it kind of both ways. Obviously they're running about the same price, really. You could buy a used one as much as you could buy, or for about the same price you can buy a new one for, but the struggle is finding the land. So like you said, the planning, the first step I think would be, if you're buying a new construction modular, then I would look into starting to find the land that you're looking for, getting that, and then obviously you would go find the dealer of your choice. Clayton, I think Oakwood Homes are local dealers around here, and they offer some pretty nice looking homes. And so you'd find you a home you want, and then they would start the construction process. And some of those companies, they do offer guys that will transport it for you, guys that will do the dirt work and the footers and all that, but you could also outsource those and contract them yourself, so maybe to potentially save you some money.
And two, if you're trying to be on just a little bit quicker of a time scale, or just curious, call your realtor and see what's available right now. Because
call us.
Call us, give us a call. But there's right now there's quite a few on the market. that might fit what you're looking for. So try that out first before you're looking at land and getting one ordered. Unless you want one custom to you, there's several available right now.
And like we mentioned, while those homes are being made in the factory, the on-site work's going on, so that helps prevent timeline crunches. So on a spec home or a custom built home, on a new build, I should say, they will take a little time, and then so they'll tell you they're about 8 months booked out in our area, anyways, and then it takes them about 8 months to get them built. And a lot of times they'll shoot for the 6 months, and I say 8 months, but they'll say 6, and it'll end up being 8 to 10 because you'll have those time changes, and then also you'll have those overruns on those stick built homes where you wouldn't have them on a factory built home.
Right. You pretty much, with these modular homes, you pay for what you get. There's not too many surprise costs that might happen when you're doing like a stick built home or on site build. And that's one of the benefits of it being in a factory. It's kind of limited to what it's exposed to, and it's a pretty straightforward process for these builders.
And like you said, they are well built. So whenever anyone goes to construct a home, I got the definition right here. I'm gonna read it verbatim because I'm not very good at memorizing things. The goal for all builds is the intentional effort to design and construct buildings and landscapes to withstand both natural and man-made disasters. And all these homes, whether they're stick built or they're factory, fabricated, they have to abide by those building codes, and the modular homes exceed, time and time again on those codes. So.
Typically, there's more hoops to jump through for these modular homes, so really
them safer, they're almost stuff like that too.
They're more checked typically than some of these stick-built homes. So let's talk a little bit about how they're built as far as the main material used for the base and why it is so strong.
Yeah, so most of your manufactured homes are going to be on a pier and beam foundation, and basically they're going to be steel rather than wood too, in most cases. So you're going to have your pier that is strapped to your I-beam and then strapped down with those straps, which we'll talk about here in a second. And the pros for those is they're freeze resistant, used in areas that flood occasionally, and earthquakes happen often, because that's how structurally sound they are. And then they're actually built off the ground in a lot of cases for that reason, which we have a video in a minute that we will be showing you guys to kind of show you a little breakdown of how they're built.
Right, and they're tied down with these metal straps, which is basically anchored into the footer. So they're really structurally sound. I've actually worked on a few of them. Got under the house and helped install some of these straps, which was a fun time. But
it was cold then too, I think, for
you.
In your overalls.
It was pretty cold. But these straps they're really structurally sound, and they're spread out. There's usually like 4 to 8 straps per side, and they're anchored into the concrete and then tightened up with kind of like a ratchet.
And I'm actually on that home, so it already had those straps in place, if I'm not mistaken, and he actually, because the code had changed to where they had to be reinforced with a few more per, the building code, so they actually had to go and install, I think, 6 extra to that particular home.
Yeah, we had to install 6 of them, and that's just because when the home was built, back in the 80s or 90s, the code was a little bit different, so back then it only, required, I think, a strap in each corner. And so now that they kind of space them out, I'm not sure the footage that they require in between them, but...
And actually, the reason I think that they get a bad name is, remember when we had a buddy in here yesterday, one of our investors, he was talking, and he mentioned to us, he's like, the reason they're called mobile homes is because they used to be mobile, which they typically do come with the tongue attached to them, especially the single wides and a few other things that you'd have to get taken off, but to make it be converted to real property. But they used to have taillights on them and plugs on the outside, so you could plug them in for a month, and when you decided to go somewhere else, you just hit the road and be on your way.
Yeah, they used to have taillights and
we've actually seen a few homes where they had actually taken those and built around them, and they've been converted to real property as well. And some you can tell if they don't do the best job, but some you can't. But
I guess let's go ahead and kind of dive into this video on how they're built.
It's going to be about 5-10 minutes, so you're not going to see us, but it's very informational, and I think that a lot of people would benefit from seeing what these guys have to say.
Right.
We're going to screencast, and we will be right back. Thank you, guys.
decking all sanded and everything's prepped. This is another part of that where we're building from the inside out. So we'll take the rolled goods and roll out all across the area that is going to require it.
Yeah.
It looks like this particular customer has wanted it throughout the whole thing. We got a lot more people today that are doing it in their bedrooms, not just through utility room, kitchen, dining room. So we've laid all that out, and this is ready. They're finalizing everything down. We do a floating floor, so it's just stapled on the perimeter.
Yeah.
All the walls, cabinets, everything will go down on there. There's no seams.
Oh, it's great that way. And one, it's a great waterproofing for when you're living inside the house.
Absolutely.
You don't have to worry about all those issues that happen around bathtubs and things like that. It's
Absolutely.
easy on the maintenance.
Yeah.
All right, exterior walls filled with a lot of insulation.
Owens Corning, once again, we like to use name brand recognition.
Yep.
It looks like they're using R21 in this particular wall, so more than likely it's an Energy Star house.
Cool.
We do lots of Energy Star certified homes here.
Nice.
We can see him gluing the studs, getting ready for sheetrock.
That's great. All right, well, I see that's the easy route for loading drywall in.
For sure. When you got a forklift and you can lift the whole unit to put inside the house, it makes it quite a bit easier. Yeah, so basically what we've seen now is the jigs, they're putting sheetrock on one side of the wall, and we're looking up here at another side of the wall that's exposed.
Yeah.
As they put those partitions in, this gives the electricians, the plumbers, opportunity to run plumbing in the wall if it needs to be, electrical in those walls, switches, recess, etc. The units of rock are what we call the back panelers. So as we get farther down this line, we'll start to see, after the plumbers and electricians are done, then the rocker's got to put rock back up to close up that wall.
Absolutely. I wish we had smell-o-vision because the wood smell in here is amazing.
This is a great spot.
I love these massive walls.
Yeah, so most everything we do is a 2x6 exterior wall,
Yeah.
16-inch on center. So this is the next wall jig. So you're going to find exterior walls in this area, marriage line walls, and end partition walls. Once again, on a table, convenient to jig where they don't have to work in precarious positions. Very comfortable. Once they get the units complete, they're able to hoist those up and run them back out onto that production line.
Man, that's great. And I see you already got drywall installed, huh?
Yep.
That's cool.
Ready to go.
Ready to go. All right, we're starting to look like a house.
Yeah, so coming off of that wall jig for those exterior walls and marriage line walls, we're out here now back on the floor where they've brought them out into position. They've placed them up on the unit. I like to point out all the extensive bracing that goes on
no
too.
kidding.
I mean, if you're building this on site, there's a lot of strapping, but not this much.
Not anywhere close.
Units got to get from here to Tri-Cities or to Northern California, wherever it needs to be. You can see the electrical in there, insulation in there. They're getting close now to that back paneling we saw a little bit ago. Electricians and plumbers are in there working simultaneously.
Yeah, you really start to see that coming together, and that's where those big walls come in. You guys can make some progress pretty quick. That's all. As soon as that's set, you're rocking and rolling.
Exactly. We're at a current production rate of about 12 floors a week.
Wow.
So 6 homes a week are coming out of this facility.
All right, I see we're starting to put a roof together.
Yeah, we are. One of the things that we utilize is a continuous ridge beam. So you'll notice on the table over there, plywood that just runs forever.
Yeah.
It's the length of the unit. So from hitch to tail, we're doing a continuous ridge beam that those trusses are going to be fastened up to.
Man, that's super strong.
It is super strong. It keeps the boxes, the integrity together as they transport. It makes it easier to set the units. Most often, really where you need the ridge beam is only in an open span area.
Yeah.
If you have a multi-section unit that's open from the A half to the B half, that's where that ridge beam needs to carry the load.
Yeah.
We just go ahead and build it from pitch to tail. And we do what's known as a double marriage line wall construction. And we'll see some of that as we get down the line.
That's great, and as big as open concepts are for everybody out there, that really just gives you a lot of freedom, doesn't it?
It's actually given us a lot of opportunity with that because we can go longer and span greater.
All right, this is the easy.
Alrighty guys, thank you for watching that video. I hope it was very informational for you as it was for us. And actually we do have a little bit more information to give you on about the anchorage systems.
So one of our investors, he's actually watching, he said to go ahead and mention that the HUD standard in 1974 was changed the way mobile homes were built. The anchoring system that is used nowadays is called the Oliver bracing system, which is a solid bar that is used and anchors to the foundation itself. But I just wanted to throw that out there, something we kind of looked over. But I guess going over foundation inspections, Do you want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah, so typically whenever you are buying a modular home, it is going to have a foundation inspection unless you go through a local bank. I would ask your bank whenever you are looking into a modular home about what inspections they do require for your loan, because there are some loan required inspections like a structural foundation inspection, which we have a lot. I think they run typically about $600 to $800, and they will walk around the outside of the home as well as get under in the crawl space and check, make sure every strap is strapped correctly, and even if it's not on the correct angle, they'll have to have it moved and redone. And I think you can elaborate on that a little bit.
I don't know the exact angle, but from what I remember, I'm pretty sure it's 45 degrees. But yeah, the foundation inspectors, they go under the home and they check everything to make sure there's enough anchors, they're placed properly, they're secured properly. So, most loan types, most loans in general will require this foundation inspection. I recommend it if they don't, to go ahead and get one just for your peace of mind.
And a lot of people don't know what loans actually do qualify for modular homes. They think you have to go conventional. Well, you don't actually, and what you can tune into our last week's episode where we had Garrett and Chad on, and they were going over about each loan and its breakdown and what could qualify for what. So give that a listen if you're curious if your home will qualify for a certain type of loan.
Well, like FHA loans, which, not to quote me on it, but they typically only require that it was put on the property. It was the first place that it was put on the property. I'm actually under contract with one that was put there in 1995. Sorry, and a lot of agents, they don't think that they'll go FHA, but with the right lender, the right situation, they will.
And a lot of people, I think, get confused about the underpinning on them as well, and they'll think that if it has a skirting on it, that it's not going to go FHA or VA loan types, and really, that is just a cosmetic defect. You could have the block or you could have the underpinning and it still qualify as a structural foundation and qualify for those loan types as well.
Right. The difference between the block and the underpinning, there's not much as far as the structural secureness of it. It's just more of your preference or what you like. So.
Yep. And then also with that, you can convert, depending on your home and the circumstances, you can typically convert them from a mobile home to real property. So essentially what you'd have to do is find the certificate of occupancy, and if you're not the original owner, you'd have to go and find that if it's not being converted already. You'd have to find the title, surrender that, kind of like a car title, and then you would get the affidavit
of conversion.
Yeah, affidavit of conversion. And obviously that's a lot to take in and a lot to do, so I would reach out to your local title companies like Collier Title that sponsors the podcast, and see what they could do for you. But that would also lower your property taxes as well as raise the value for resales down the road.
Right. So if your mobile or modular home qualifies, I definitely recommend getting it converted. Like he said, it'll help the resale value and your taxes for that matter. But as far as the building material for the home, they use just as good, if not better, building materials.
What you heard in the video, they was using 2x6s and stuff like that, and those beams were reinforced with steel, and
as you can see, yeah, they're in the factory too, so it's not being exposed to the elements. It's not being subject to rain or to sun that might cause warping or shrinkage.
Shrink and swell, and then which would create air gaps and water leaks and stuff down the road, and then also the overruns,
which helps with that overrun.
Yeah,
because that material don't need to get repurchased if it was warped or.
So on a stick built home, like we discussed, the timeline's better on a prefab. The costs are better because there's no overrun. How much on a stick built can you expect for most builders to typically overrun their price?
It's usually about 10 to 30%. That comes in different ways, whether it's material or labor costs. Just with coordinating so many different parts to construct a home, you're going to have the framers, you're going to have the foundation guys, you're going to have the flooring and the painters. So, you're kind of bringing all these pieces together, and with that, you get some overruns. Maybe the wrong material was purchased. It's just, there's so much more to the system that can go wrong, and it does, and you got to calculate for that when you're trying to build.
And that prevents the timeline too, because if you can't, or even weather can play a big part in things too. So You know, I would definitely always take into factor whenever you're dealing with the prefab versus an on-site built home. And you know, like we said, you can convert them to ranch, and we're talking about the building material, how strong and structurally sound it is. So I'm not sure if a lot of people realize, but whenever, you know, they're making the effort to move these homes from the factory to the job site, they are putting these 20,000 to 60,000 to 60,000 pound vessels on trucks and driving them over highways, bridges, and, you know, railroad tracks at 50, 60 miles an hour.
They're hitting potholes. I mean,
Yeah.
and the wind from just driving 50 to 60, you know.
That alone goes to show that they can withstand, you know, natural and man-made disasters all in the same. And they're literally built for that.
And, you know, once they get there too, if there is anything that happened, you know, on the journey there, they're gonna fix that.
Yep.
You
They
know?
have the warranty. Like, we actually had to deal with that on a couple of the homes that he had listed. I had a buyer on one of them, and you know, there was a few drywall cracks, very, very minor stuff. You know, some trim hanging off. To be permanent foundation where it's got the, you know, lag screws, the bolts, and the anchors and straps all tying it down into concrete footers. You know
And on top of it, traveling, you know, once it gets there, you know, they get, you know, 2 cranes or so, and they lift it up with, you know, 2 to 4 cables and place it on the foundation where they, you know, put the foundation and leveled it. So on top of that, it's also being kind of tested in a different way with those straps just being lifted into the air.
Right.
And I feel like most stick-built homes might not be able to handle that if you're able to pick it up.
And like we
know?
talked about in a couple episodes ago, on those stick-built homes, I would recommend a home inspection on those, because, you know, there's people that want to cut corners, and in a factory, it's a lot more streamlined process and a lot less corners to be cut, you know, because it's all factory made, you know.
Right.
Not man-made errors.
And with that, with it being factory made, there's less errors in the factory. So, I mean, that's part of the reason why I think that it's cost effective most times. Obviously, it depends on your area
and your market.
Your market, you know, the cost of land and stuff like that. But, you know, 9 times out of 10, from what I've seen, you know, these manufactured homes are cheaper. You get more bang for your buck, you know.
And you can find some for up to 2,500 square foot. We're selling one, or it might have sold, I think, last week, but 2,500 square foot, 4 or 5 bedrooms in this modular home. That's bigger than my house, I think.
So, you know, I have a lot of clients come to me with, you know, families. They need extra bedrooms, but, you know, they're on a budget. And typically the best option for them is this manufactured home, because it falls in around, you know, right now at least, you know, 200,000 or so for a 4-bed, 2-bath. And, you know, that's hard to find stick built, especially brand new. You know,
you're looking at those prices, like you said, around 200,000. That's on about an acre or two around here. And those stick builts, about the same square footage with the same bedrooms, they're going around 250 to 300,000 just because it's a stick built home.
So it's a great option to keep in mind if you're trying to be on a budget. And you also get customization options too with these. If you're ordering straight from the factory, there's different models to choose from, different sizes. You can go in, you know, color combinations and more, which we'll get into in a little bit. But yeah, they're a great option, I think, for people to consider.
Yeah, especially for, like you said, people that are on a budget. And we're actually going to take a short intermission, so whenever we come back with you, we are going to dive into a link and show you kind of the floor plans, the finishes, and show you know, how nice they really are, because they're making them nicer and nicer every day. You know, some of them are nicer than the house I live in currently.
Yeah, one I just sold, you know, a few weeks ago. I loved it. I mean, it had tall ceilings, very spacious. Beautiful. I mean, the finishes were really nice. It had propane, you know, fireplace that was, you know, bricked out. It was nice.
Yeah, it was a real nice one. But again, we want to thank our sponsors, so we're going to be right back after a short intermission and bring it right to you.
Yep.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Property Panel Podcast with myself, Jalen Hardcastle, here with co-host Josh Story. You want to dive into what we're going to be talking about next?
Yeah, we're going to go over basically the finishes, the options to these mobile homes, what you can choose, and just kind of, I guess, they're just their options for the homes. They offer high-end finishes. They offer updated windows, which by that I mean the two-pane or
It
two-pane,
used to be single pane.
which helps with the efficiency of heating the home.
Yeah, energy efficient.
So two-pane windows. They got flooring options.
Yeah, water resistant, LVP.
Right.
All of it. They can even put granite in these homes too.
They offer contemporary styles with bright interiors, modern designs, and cost-effective prices with that as well. And typically they're they are prefabbed and quality finishes at a low price, in my opinion, for what you get. And again, they're very energy efficient, and I think they're one of the best bangs for your buck if you're trying to purchase a home, especially customize it. Which here shortly we're about to go into actually one of these dealers, local dealers, and kind of show you what options that they have. That way you can see, what you can customize. I'm not sure if you can customize on the website. That's something that you might have to do over the phone or meet with them or in person, which I would probably recommend. Which
they do. I think we'll go ahead and pull up the link, but I think they have the floor plans, and some of these might not be actual images. They're going to be similar to the photos. I think they're AI, generated, but we'll go ahead and screencast and show you what these are all about. So right here, obviously, we're on Clayton Homes, and we're in the 40108 district, so this is within 50 miles.
I think Clayton is located on Dixie Highway, close to White Castle. Pretty sure.
And you can see these before your options. This is running around the 140s for most of these, which is for the square footage, 1,500 to 2,000 square foot, just for $140,000.
There's a 5-bed right there.
Yeah, 5-bed. Let's click on it. Oh my! I mean, look at that.
For $140 starting price.
Look at those finishes. I mean, you have a nice little island, all the cabinet space. I mean, oh my! We don't need the ads. Let's just look through these. Oh yeah.
Which I think the finishes. So from the cabinet color to the flooring style, to maybe even the sink style.
Yep.
Most of the parts of these homes are customizable to
colors
what you want.
The siding and stuff as well, the shutters, the roof. You can have it all, like you said, customizable. I know around here a lot of them will prefer the metal roof, versus the shingled sometimes. So helps you sleep at night. But I mean, look how beautiful that is, and they have an open floor plan a lot of times. So your master might be on one side, and then your other 3-4 bedrooms might be on the other side, so they're very spacious. And
I noticed too on this one, if you go back, some of these roof or ceilings are pitched. I kind of like that actually with the flat ceiling.
Good catch. Yeah. You don't find them flat too often. That makes it feel definitely a more home feeling.
Right.
But also, and I kind of like the modular sometimes where they have that pitch ceiling because it makes it feel a little bigger.
It does give it taller ceilings. Like the one I sold a few weeks ago had a pitch ceiling, and it gave it a more roomy feel.
They really have this thing decorated.
I know.
I mean, goodness. And you could have, so they do have the options for, the surround tubs or those stand-up showers like you see mentioned. Most of them will have the double Jack and Jill vanities in the master bedrooms. Master bathrooms, I'm sorry. And there's the tub. Yeah, you get a big tub in them most of the time, which, as long as it's not jetted, they're okay. But them jetted ones seem to run some issues on them sometimes.
Yeah,
if you don't work them, and a lot of times
if you don't keep up with them, a lot of those, a lot of the jets can have seal issues or go out, which can require a little bit more work to fix.
And there's kind of the floor plan that you can see. It's really open, so you got your kitchen, dining room, and living room. That's basically one big area to entertain, which is kind of nice if you have guests over and stuff.
Let's see a little bit of what other options they got.
Yeah, let's dive into a different one. And they're all really nice. I mean,
yep. So it does say before options on those.
Yeah. And like you said, it's probably like you see they have a standard deck on this. You can have a bigger deck on the front and back end too if you want. And I think it looks more appealing with that as well. Oh, that's a different one I hadn't seen coming in from from the side.
It's a cottage style.
I like that.
Yep.
Huh, that's really neat. But yeah, we'll get back with you guys now. But now that you've seen the homes, obviously you see that they have the high end finishes, and the materials they use are still top notch. And like we said, that you're not subject to those overrun risks where they're 10 to 30% over budget. So if you're spending $30,000 or $300,000 on a stick built home, those overruns that home's probably going to cost you upwards to $330 to $360 by the time it's all said and done. And that 8 month timeline might turn into a year or so, you know.
Yep.
So whereas these prefab homes, you're not going to be out of pocket any extra expenses that they quoted you, and you're going to be able to have it on the timeline that you prefer.
Right. How long do you think it would take, you know, maybe the short end versus the long end of ordering one of these homes?
Okay, so
because you know you got to think about finding land too.
Yep.
Unless you already got land or something, but you got to worry about all those.
Well, luckily with my uncle Marty, he used to be with Kentucky Land, so he's been in a long time, and he's over the years acquired a bunch of land. So he's actually started getting on the train and started putting on some prefab homes on these lots, and they're selling like hotcakes. But I actually had a client, to your topic, that they was looking for land because they wanted to, you know, build a home, and I found them the land. They was like, this is for us, and Marty was actually the owner. And so I got them under contract on the land, and they was trying to find a builder. And I was like, well, why don't you go, you know, stop up here at one of these stores off Dixie and see what they could do for you. It might be a little more in your budget, and I think you'll really like the home style. And they ended up falling in love with it, and it ended up costing them a lot cheaper than they were prepared to pay for an on-site build.
Yeah, I think you know, it's a great option for that reason. You know, it is cost efficient. You know, 9 times out of 10. I mean, you saw the prices on there, and they actually get cheaper than that. Those started at $140. I've seen them start at $90, $100.
Right.
So there's other options for that. But I guess to go back to the finish and the build quality, which we kind of went over before, but you know, none of this material, since it's in a factory, it's in a building, it's not exposed to the weather.
Mm-hmm.
So the drywall, the sheetrock,
that's
lumber,
where your overrun comes in a lot, is
right,
on those costs.
Yeah, I mean, I worked, you know, when I worked as a electrician, we worked on a log home, and we actually, so this home was supposed to be built in 6 months, kind of like Jay said, is what the timeline you get. But you know, some of the crews ended up running behind. And so what ended up happening is the roof wasn't on it yet, and it ended up sitting in rain for about 2 to 3 months.
The roof's the most important part.
Yeah, and so all that was wood since it's a log cabin. And so when we went to run our lines, so these logs are pre-drilled for our wires to run through just because it's so thick. Mm-hmm. It's hard to, you know, it's hard to run lines. Right. So a lot of these pre-drilled holes that actually shifted because of it warping and staying outside the elements.
Bad.
Yeah.
Dang.
And so, you know, my boss had to end up going and buying a specialty bit that was like 5 foot long just to get through some of these beams.
Y'all still did have to drill through some
to get to
them.
the boxes so that we could even run plugs and lights. So that's just something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, all this material is protected, which also helps with its energy efficiency because it's tight. There's no gaps, or I'm not going to say no gaps, but there's less gaps. There's less openings.
That goes to show, like you'd mentioned. So that electrician probably quoted the job. Oh, like you said, these holes are already pre-drilled. That's where the overrun comes into cost because he had to go buy that bit, and then also it cost him, you know, a couple hours, a couple man hours. And
we spent probably 2 or 3 days straight just drilling holes.
Oh, so that's a lot of extra overrun right there, and just one contractor, you know, and then. There's a whole mess, which we got an episode in a couple weeks that'll kind of go over like how to choose and what goes into choosing, you know, how to build and stuff like that as well.
Let's go over kind of the process of let's say you get the land, you order the house. You know, once it gets there, it's on the foundation. You know, how do they go about that as far as patching up the drywall when they're connecting it and
so like you discussed, we sold one a couple weeks ago, which he sold quite a bit for one of his investors here recently, and there was a few repairs that needed to be made, and before closing, luckily the owner had a warranty, which also goes to the buyer on those newer models too. So that's nice. But they ended up having to call the warranty company, and they had to be sent out to take care of those cracks and stuff like that, which they put in all new material. And they didn't cut any corners. They didn't salvage what they could.
And they will with that home warranty. Buying from the factory, they're gonna come fix most of those issues.
Mm-hmm.
But once they get to the site, they're basically connected together. They patch up some of the drywall just because of that. And once they get it nice and secure and airtight, just a few things that they have to finish. So like we said, from the factory, it's 85% complete. They're kind of just wrapping things up on the job site. A few of those things is just, running the electric from the pole, running the water lines, running the plumbing lines.
Just connecting them, really.
Connecting everything.
Because like we had mentioned earlier, they're 85% complete. So your kitchens, your bath, your floorings, your doors, everything's already done with the home. It's just getting set on that foundation, and your septic's already ran, your water's already ran. They're just connecting the plumbing, connecting, like you said, the electric, and rolling about their business, connecting those straps so it's tight, like we discussed, those beams going to those piers, connected with those anchors and straps into those concrete footers, and they're very well built. And smart builders and smart home buyers are starting to understand the key advantages to off-site modular construction, and custom home building industry is one of the last to utilize the advantages that every other major industry has discovered with the modular factory production. And with the construction industry struggling to find workers, and the demand for more consistent quality builds are driving builders to find a better solution. And I think that people need to learn that modulars mean made well. Modulars are built well. They are tied down, and like we said, they exceed every building code. Planning and zoning is made for a reason, guys. And them things are no different than a regular house.
Yep.
And they're made in a factory, so there's less room for error, less room for overruns, and less room for time to be lapsed.
Yeah, all in all, I kind of feel like these modular homes get a bad name, but even from the start, I've only been in real estate for about 3.5 years now, but even with that, I'm seeing more and more people get into mobile homes, and it's actually really helping them get into a home if they're renting.
And like another reason, like we said, it was cost efficient. That's why whenever we flip, I'm an investor as well, and I've lived in one. That was my first home, is actually a double wide, and I swear there's a couple times when I thought the wind was going to take us off, but we stayed right there. And as far as repairs go, it's a little cheaper to get the material for those. So whenever you do have to have those homeowner repairs that are associated with owning a home, that it's not going to hurt the pocketbook as much.
Right. So keep that in mind. If you're looking to purchase a home, maybe you're on a budget and you don't want to worry about these overruns on the stick build, or you want to get more bang for your buck. Consider a manufactured home. At least go see one with your realtor.
Mm-hmm. Us
specifically.
Your realtor is us.
Yeah, come check us out. But check one out for yourself. I think they're really beneficial for people on a budget, especially.
I've actually had a couple buyers here recently that I want a stick built home, I want a basement. I showed them a modular because it was very affordable, and they're like, holy cow, like this surprised them as well, actually stepping foot. You read what people post all day long, and people are going to hate on anything that's good. So
I mean, I've sold and worked on a lot of these modular homes that were 30-40 years old, and
they're still standing.
They're structurally sound.
Them other homes typically have to be taken down, sometimes. I mean, unless you see a lot of homes. I mean, it actually surprises me, how many double wides you see that are older models versus homes that, I say typically you don't see a home older than 1960 or 70, around here. I mean, you might see some 1950s or something like that every so often, but I think it goes to show that those modulars are built a little better.
They're relatively new, I guess, in general,
Mm-hmm.
but I think they're built to last. We're going to continue to see them.
Mm-hmm.
I think the ones that were even placed in 1980, they're going to be here for a while. So.
Yeah. And like we said, I know we've been talking a lot about double wides, but also those single wides, they're still got the tongue on them and stuff when you get them from the factory. But, like you said, if they're not moved from one place to the other, they still can qualify for most government loans, and you know,
Right.
we can get you in one today if you really want to.
Right. I've sold a few single wides FHA.
We closed on one today.
Closed
Or
on
it
one
wasn't
today.
FHA today.
Wasn't FHA,
but we did close on a single wide today.
I got another single wide under contract that is FHA. We're at the last portion of the deal. Really, just need to do a structural foundation inspection,
Yep.
which
should pass with flying
should
colors.
pass, and
On a single wide too. you
on
know.
a single wide, 1965. So, or
Mhm.
sorry, 1996. That was off, but.
No, again, we're going to start to close out, but we want to thank you guys for tuning in this week. Modular homes, they're not for everyone, but you definitely should not, you know, put them down because they're just as well built as your stick-built house that you're living in. So, you know, let's continue to give more information out. And then next week, actually, we're going to be going over how to build passive income. And we got a guest speaker coming on. He reached out to us from Massachusetts. Somehow he noticed us, and he's actually started a strength and conditioning business and then leveraged that business to build his portfolio over 2 years up to 160
And
units.
he's going to go over all that, and you know, I think I'm going to learn a lot.
Oh, I'll learn a lot too.
And hopefully you guys too, but I'm looking forward to that
I am
episode.
too.
Looking forward to talking to him, seeing what he has to share, and I
Mhm.
think it'll be very informative, especially if you're trying to build passive income. If you're trying to get into investing, I think he's going to have a lot of good information.
Mhm. Yep.
But I guess before we close out, I just want to thank our sponsors again. I want to thank Collier Title. I want to go ahead and thank Supreme Lending, Chad Gooden, and Garrett
Thank you
Greenwell.
guys.
And also want to go ahead and thank CNS Pumping for sponsoring this week.
They're the number one and the number two business.
Yep. Give them a call if you have any septic issues.
They'll get you right, I promise.
Yeah, or if you have any grease trap issues, I guess,
Yeah,
for
they
restaurants.
do it
and-
all. Yeah. Literally anything you need. Like I said, I didn't know what it was, whether it was my septic, my plumbing, but they came and they got it figured out within 12 hours of me texting him. I
Right.
texted him on a Sunday at like 7 p.m. and he was there at 7 a.m. on a Monday morning. I was like, I couldn't thank them guys
Yeah,
enough.
great customer service, great communication. You know, give them a call if you need any of that. But yeah, I guess we'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning in.
Go hit that like, subscribe button. Go ahead, hit the share, do the follow. Oh, we forgot to mention actually also about our giveaway. We're
Okay.
doing a giveaway next week, ain't we? Yes.
Yep.
So we're going to be posting on our social media as well. But we're doing a $25 gift card giveaway. It's going to be just like a little Visa card. You can spend it anywhere. I know it's not much, but it's what we can afford at the moment as we're building. We're trying to, constantly build the podcast. We're getting, I think more lights this week. Like I said, we're getting the mic stand. So we're going to get a couple more mics as well.
Did you go over how to enter in, or did I?
No, yeah, go ahead and tell them.
Which I don't know how you wanted to do it.
No.
Honestly.
No, yeah. So if you do want to get in, so you got to like our Facebook page, and next week we'll go live at 5 p.m. and all you have to do is come in and comment while we are live on the air. And then that following Monday morning, I think next week is the 2nd, so I guess the 5th would be the Monday. We'll come in and we'll do the drawing, and I think we'll do it live on Facebook.
Okay. Thank you guys. Thank you for tuning in, and I guess we'll